Hey everybody, how you guys doing? This is Dr. Carmen Bryan. This is Car Chronicles. You guys ready? Well, let's do this. Okay, so you guys know that in most of the narcissist abuse recovery coaches and on this platform, wherever you guys watch or what videos you watch, we always talk about trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is very powerful because trauma bonding is not it's an emotional attachment. It's like a soul tie. That's exactly what it is. It's a soul tie. But trauma bonding is just like the Stockholm syndrome. And the Stockholm syndrome, if you guys go back and read the Patty Hearst story, is where there were some bank robbers. And the emotional pull or the emotional trauma that a person experiences causes them to do things that are out of character. It causes things to, people to do things and to agree to things in order to save their lives. And when you're dealing with trauma bonds or Stockholm syndromes, you're dealing with, your body's chemical reactions, your body's reaction, your psychological reaction. It's a psychological reaction in order to preserve yourself. Meaning that you are so afraid that you understand that you begin to understand that the person that is threatening you has the power of life and death in their hands. They have the ability to kill you. And so you'll do anything in order to survive, even if it means to side with that individual or get to know that individual and connect with that individual. And when you connect with that individual emotionally, psychologically, that's in the midst of you being wide open, in the midst of your trauma and fear. And like I told you guys in the past, when you're dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, when you're dealing with trauma, there's a moment in time in which your mind, those of you remember pictures and you remember those negatives with the pictures, on the negatives, they're black and white, they're backwards. And then when you actually go and have them develop, they come out as pictures. Well, your mind does that when you are traumatized. It takes a picture and everything opens up all at one time. Your sense of smell heightens, your sense of vision heightens, your sensitivity heightens, your tactile, the feeling, you feel things, but everything is heightened at that. The sense of smell is so keen that you can pick up key notes in perfumes and colognes or in the atmosphere. You in your mind is taking a picture, a snapshot of the time and space that you're in. That's why EMDR is a very good a therapeutic approach in order to deal with trauma. But everything opens up at one time. So in the back of your mind is stored all the memories of that moment of trauma, that traumatic event at that particular time. There's certain seasons you may not like, certain smells you may not like the smell of Christmas. You may not like the smell of certain colognes. You may not like, the appearance of fallen leaves, during the fall, the fallen leaves or forest, but anything, can trigger you. Those are triggers in your mind. That's why it's good to get with a good trauma professional, a trauma therapist. You need a trauma therapist to go into the recesses of your mind. And everybody can't do that. Go into the recesses of your mind and connect those unconscious thoughts with the conscious thought, because you're being triggered at something that your brain has hidden. The brain is a very powerful, it's like a computer. It's very powerful. It does do things in order to protect you. And sometimes the things that it does to protect you also can be detrimental to you, because there are things stored in your subconscious that your mind probably could not handle, because you would have went into shock. And so your mind couldn't handle. So it puts it into your subconscious memory. But guess what? Now you're being triggered and you don't understand. You say, I've had stress. Well, I've had anxiety ever since I was young. What happened when you were young? What happened to open you up to have a snapshot in your subconscious where every time, something happens, or the way that you handle stress, or this happens, or you're quiet happening, your mind is being tormented by the echoes of the past. And you don't even know, because you don't know what the echoes are. You don't know what's stored in your subconscious. But trauma bonds are very powerful because of the fact that you are in fight, flight, or freeze. You're in survival mode. So out of fear, most people will connect with that person. Now, how does that apply to a narcissist? A narcissist knows how to take you to the heights of that climax, to make you feel good about yourself. They put you into this cycle where they are conditioning you and changing your thought process very slowly, systematically. And they're changing your thought process to a point why they like to isolate you. They change your thought process and your reactionary times and the level of trauma. A lot of you have been so traumatized that you don't know the height of the trauma that you've been in. You have been so predisposed to it and introduced to it and groomed into it and trained into it that you really don't know the height of danger sometimes that you're in. And for the average person, they're looking at you and like, do you understand the height of danger that you are in. And a lot of times it takes when a person comes out of that situation, when they go back and look, when everything starts to calm down, your body begins to break down. And you're wondering, it's been 20 years since I've been with this person, or it's been 10 years since I've been with this person. Why am I all of a sudden having neurological problems? Why am I all of a sudden having fibromyalgia? Why all of a sudden am I having issues with diabetes? Or, why all of a sudden I'm having breathing issues or respiratory problems? Well, same thing, but, why all of a sudden I'm starting to have hair loss? Why do I have adult acne like that? There are other reasons why you have adult acne. Now, y'all don't take that as being a general statement, but, but you're wondering why. But think about it. If your body has been fight, flight, or freeze, or fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, I think that's what it is now. If your body has been in fight or flight, fight or flight, the adrenaline is pumping, and you have lived your life, your body has been trying to protect you. Your body has been trying to protect you while you were in the midst of this trauma. They're taking you to these heights of euphoria and making you feel good, then dropping you and tormenting and terrorizing you, then building you back up and then dropping you, because now you have become codependent. You have become dependent on that person fulfilling your emotional needs. You have been so addicted. They have become your drug, and you have been so addicted to this individual that you are dependent on them bringing you up, and when they bring you down, you try to get them to bring you back up. You're looking for that hit. The hope is the last thing to go. Talking to this young lady who is a family friend, and she said, I can share the story. I'm not going to give you the whole story, share the story. But she's so trauma bonded to this individual, who's also the father of her children. He's got many kids, and he's a young guy. What, about 16, 17 children, probably more than that, and growing every day. But she's so trauma bonded to him that even in the midst of her escape, where he has been put in prison, he still controls her from the other side of prison. He's in prison and still controls her, calls her up all the time, demands money from her, wants money from her, and she sends money to him. And the money that she sends, or the money that, he asks her to give money to her father to put on his books, but in actuality, he tells the father to go take the money and go take it to another woman. And so she's funding other women. He's getting money and showing these other women how powerful he is, that he got the ability to get money, and not always disclosing the fact that he's getting it from her. Like, most of the time he doesn't, but disclose the fact he's getting it from her, and he's sending money to these other women, all these other women. And he's got these women fighting over him because he feels empowered. He feels empowered, and he's messy. That's the only thing that that's the only adjective that I can use, just a messy man. And most narcissists are just messy people, where they love to triangulate and see people fight over them because it makes them feel empowered. It makes them feel some type of value. It makes them feel like they're the head honchos or whatever they are. That she's so caught up in them that she's still trauma bonded to this individual. She's got this toxic umbilical cord still stuck. They're still connected. And she doesn't know how to break it. And from time to time, but he is the father of my children, but he, I can't deny he's the father. Yeah, but you've gotten a way of escape. And I've said that, if you've gotten a way of escape where he is locked up, he can't do anything. He might be there for 10 years. And that's the time where you should take that opportunity to clear that brain fog and get away from. But the trauma bond is so strong because of those chemicals that were released. Oxytocin is one of the ones that I talk about a lot. Oxytocin is released when a woman, for example, when a woman has a baby and she's breastfeeding. And those chemicals, oxytocin is a bonding chemical that helps her bond with her baby. The more the baby suckles on the breast, the more she bonds with that baby. Those chemicals are being released. Those are the same chemicals, those attachment chemicals that are released when you're taking drugs. The dopamine and the serotonin. People take heroin, or people take, whatever drug that they're taking that causes them not to feel, because they're emotional. They don't want to feel those emotions. And so you become addicted to this drug that causes you not to be able to feel the pain, to numb you. You're being numbed at that point. I'm sorry, the phone was ringing. That you're being numbed
into this perfectly set up height.
But you're being numbed, and they become addicted to that, dependent, being dependent on those, or addicted to those drugs to keep them from feeling, or to alter their moods, depending on, if they're anxious all the time, they want to go to sleep, they want energy. That's the same thing that happens when you are trauma bonded to this narcissist. You are trauma bonded to this narcissist because you know that if you stay away from them long enough and it's quiet, you need some type of action. That's where you come from in your past. You need some type of action. There's no trauma and everything is peaceful. You self-sabotage. You create your own trauma, or you go look for them and hoover them yourself so that you can get even a negative reaction from them. So that causes you to react negatively, because that's what you need. It's called trauma bonding.